Well, obviously we leave Wednesday. Conference is in South Alabama, and we just like every year. One of the things I set out to do when we first got here was to go into conference level track meets and you know be in the conversation. They got other schools and other coaches that coach too, and they got some good programs. I really appreciate what Coach Frazier's done at Texas State with the program that he has. They've got a juggernaut right now, and obviously they're the team to beat. I think on both sides, App State's done a really good job of putting together a men's team. They're solid for sure. So it's going to be a dogfight, but we do appreciate the fact that we've gotten to the point where we're in the conversation. The other people in the conference know that we're going to be there to compete, and obviously winning a conference championship is our goal when we set out in August, and it's no different this week. We have some outstanding kids. We feel like we'll have several conference championships individually, and then hopefully we'll put together a team that can represent the university and do our part to bring home a championship if that's in the cards.
So do you feel like the balance is enough, or is one side going to have to carry a bigger load?
So the women, I think, if you look at the pre-conference rankings, I mean, I think the women are probably a somewhat of a slight favorite, just on going by what's on paper. I think Texas State's right behind us. There's some schools that are right on us. It's not like we're like, 50 points we can screw up and still win the meet. But the women are in a position. We've been second 2 years in a row. 2 years ago, we lost by 4 indoors. Outdoors. Last year, we lost by 11. We do feel like we have a strong team coming back. We feel like we have some very important key pieces of the puzzle who are poised to contribute. But track's kind of a different sport. Y'all, we just played a 3-game series in baseball. We won one by a close one, and we lost one. But guess what? On Sunday, they got to come back and see if they could win again. Saturday night, we're done for the year. We're not getting that second chance. There's no series in track. So we just have to perform over the 3 days, and the goal is to get as many people into the finals as possible. We have prelims on Thursday, prelims on Friday. We do have some finals in some of the field events, some very key field events. And, of course, the heptathlon and the decathlon start on Thursday and finish on Friday. So we're hoping that we can start the meet with some points in those events. So, so much goes into winning a track meet. So many things have to go right in order for you to do that. The high school state meets just finished up over the weekend, and there was a couple of classes going in where if this happens, if that happens, and one team ended up probably maybe doing what they were supposed to do, and another team didn't do what they had to do, and so one team ends up the winner at the end of the meet. But like I always tell our kids, you just go out and do your job during the first 2 days, and then the third day is fun. Because the third day is when you have all the people in the finals, right? And only 9 make it. Well, 8. There's only 8-lane track. Last year we had 9 because we had a 9-lane track. But only 8 make it out of everybody who runs. And, it's an honor just to make a final, to be honest with you, at the conference level. So we have to go out, take care of business on the first couple of days, get as many people into the finals as we possibly can on Saturday. We got to do our part in the field events, those finals that are prior to, like the men and women's javelin, for instance. Those are 2 really big events for us, huge events, and those are early. So we'll know right away, I think, whether or not, going into the third day, how we stack up.
The javelin obviously is one of the events. It's not contested indoors. Do you think you're stronger maybe outdoors than you are indoors overall?
Well, I mean, you have the 400 hurdles on the women's side. We're really good, and you have the 4x1. We were 5th, I think, in the DMR. I think we can be better than that in the 4x1. So you trade the 4x1 for the DMR indoors. Then you have the discus. We have on the women's side, we have the reigning conference champion in the discus, right, Kamola Hines. We also have the young lady that was 7th last year. So we have 12 points returning in the discus. You don't have that indoors. So the 400 hurdles, the 4x1. We're not strong in the hammer, which is another event that Texas State is really strong in. Coach Frazier is one of the best hammer coaches in the world. Actually, his girl at Texas State is ranked in the world. Not like she's number 1 in NCs, but she's also ranked in the world. He's got a pipeline to some of the best hammer throwers for sure in America, or she's from Iceland. She's not from America. But they, so we know those things going in though. So we got to do our part in the things that we're strong in. The javelin, for instance, can go either way. Alabama State, South Al has some really good guys. We do too. They have a couple of women javelin throwers. We do too. So how we do head up against the people who are also good in those events matters a lot. That's why it's so important to show up on those. You only get 6 throws, 3 in the prelims, 3 in the finals. So you work a whole season for 6 throws in track since August. So the pressure is definitely on. It's a different, the good news in track is that all eyes are on me. It's on me. The bad news is all eyes are on me, and it's on me. So nobody, in basketball, I always say that. Basketball, at the end of the game, if I don't want to shoot it, I'm passing it. Let somebody else take the last shot. But there ain't nobody to pass it to in track. You got it. It's all on you. And so for 3 days, hopefully that we show up, and the kids that we're counting on to do something really, really show up. And then the kids that maybe aren't in the mix, maybe there's 11th or 12th on the list, come through and get in the final and do some special things. To be special, a special team, you got to have kids that want to be special. And I talk to them a lot about that. And that means that in a very short window of time, you have to raise your standard. And it's a thing that we've done in the past. Like I said, we've gone from mid to lower, going into conference meets, we were in the middle of the pack somewhat. Some years we were even in the lower half to being one of the top teams going in. And that's what the goal was when we started out a few years back. Well, in a track meet with 22 events, you can find 4 points that you screwed up along the way for sure. We should have won that meet. Last year, we actually had a great meet. We probably couldn't have scored more than we scored. We just knocked it out of the park. We were supposed to lose by 36 last year on paper. We just had a really good meet. So we just feel like we had one 400 hurdler last year. We scored 6. We feel really good that we have 3 girls, if they stay healthy this week and really run the way that they can run, we should have 3 in the final. We just feel like there's some areas where we're better than we were a year ago. Probably some were the same, and of course our distance girls, especially Ella Segura and Izzy Russell, they're just top of the conference. I mean, it's just come a long way. They've worked so hard. Chloe Crowell is going to score for us in the 5 and 10K. Last year she was getting lapped, and she's just worked really hard. And so we have 3 girls in the 5 and 10K that I think can score. We think we have 2 in the 3K steeple can score. We have the best freshman 800 runner in the conference. I think she's seeded 2nd. So, she comes through, does what she's supposed to do, and then maybe sneak somebody on the back end in the 800 and maybe get a point or 2. Because that's how you win track meets. Everybody sees the winners. But in reality, you really are looking at how many people can be 10th and 11th and sneak in 7th and 8th. That's how you win. You win with the big points mainly, but usually the meet comes down to how many people showed up and scored that you weren't counting on. That's really how it works.
What about the men's side?
Men's side too. So the men's side, we have quality. We're really, really good, in a lot of events. The problem on the men's side may be we might not have enough bullets. Like, we're going to score. We're going to score very good. We're going to have some high quality. We're number 1 in the 4x1, number 1 in the 4x4. We have 4 of the top 6 200 guys. We have 2 of the top 4 100-meter guys. We have the defending indoor conference champion in the 400. We have 2 guys that made the final indoors in the 8. We've got Peyton Chasson and Reese Shelby, who didn't run indoors for us. They're back outdoors. So we've got them we're picking up in the 1500, the steeplechase, and the 5K. So on paper, at least, we're stronger in a lot of events. The problem is that where other people are really strong, we may not score a whole lot of points. We're not seated in for instance, the discus. We're not seated in the long jump. Our high jumpers are seated, maybe score a point. We don't have a triple jumper at all. We had our kid that we were counting on this year. He tore his ACL. So he was going to be in the top 3 long jump and triple jump this year. And he tore his ACL. We didn't have anybody really to come in and replace him. And then we had another kid that we were kind of counting on in the long jump. He got hurt with a season-ending injury. Freak. He was long jumping and just a freak thing. Hyperextended his knee. So all that goes into play too. I'm sure other teams have people hurt too. I mean, it's part of sports. When your heavy hitters get hurt and you don't have anybody behind them, that's where it really hurts. You know, it's becoming more difficult to answer your question about the men because of roster limits and the NCAA, the way they reorganized, and because of Title IX, it is getting a little bit harder to have depth on the men's side. Most programs in the country, including ours, are kind of mandated to have fewer men than women. And so what that does, it limits the depth. Where we used to take a walk-on and let them develop for 2 or 3 years, we're not able to do that anymore. Where, it's going to be a thing where walk-ons in men's track are going to kind of be a thing of the past almost at a lot of schools. Next year, we're going to be down to 35 men on our entire roster, and that includes cross. That includes distance people, which we have 11 of those. So that means on the rest of the track team, I'll have 24 spots, period. You know, so it's hard to have depth when you're talking about that kind of thing. So now we're looking at 2 quality jumpers, 2 quality throwers. You know, instead of 4 pole vaulters, 2 quality pole vaulters, and really try to hone in on recruiting maybe fewer, but maybe better up front if we can, is going to be the goal moving forward. This year, it is what it is. You know, we have teams in the conference that have, more resources than us. They have more people on the team. They have higher quality people, but that doesn't mean that we can't compete. You know, we're going to be right there in the mix. Our kids fight, and that's all I can ask. You know, get us to the mile relay, get us to the 4x4. Actually, on the women's side, get us to the 5K, second to last event. Get us to the 5K. We're going to score a lot in the 5K. And the 400 hurdles, you got the 400 hurdles, the 200, the 5K, right before the 4x4. Those 3 events are going to be crucial to us, crucial. And if we can score in those events like we should, we can get into that 4x4 with a chance maybe to win on both sides.
You've got a book out that you have this out that you wrote. Just kind of what went into wanting to release it now, and just what do you hope people can learn more about you through the book?
Well, Hollis Conway?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he can be very convincing. Anyway, about 10 years ago, Hollis started kind of honestly hounding me to write a book. And I'm like, I ain't got nothing, what am I write a book? So over the last 10 years, I've sat down 3 times. I got to, the farthest I got was page 3. So that wasn't going to happen. My life was crazy or whatever. And so I in the summer, the coach at Florida put out a book, and Mike Holloway is his name. The name of the book was The Holloway. And it was a really good book. It's a background, kind of what he believes, and it was a good book. The same company that printed that book, I guess they solicit coaches to do books. And so I got solicited to do a book, and the way that they structured it, I said, you know what, I can do this. And so we went through a process from August until, April. Finally got it done. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I realized I did have probably more stories and things to say. Once you start sitting down, they were telling me, like, you got to, the more pages it is, the more expensive. So, like, you might want to cut some of these stories out. I was on a Bandit show yesterday, and I told him at the end, I go, the older you get, the more stories you got. And so it's kind of a book of things that I've learned from my athletes along the way. There's a chapter in there about the subtitle is Building Better Teams Start to Finish. And my I guess you'd say my DNA has been to take over programs that maybe, there's only 3 reasons why coaches get hired. You know what they are? The first one is they retire. The guy before you retires. The second one is the guy before you did a dang good job and got solicited and got hired away because they did a good job. And the third one is it didn't work out, right? And they moved in a different direction. And I've kind of been in that. That's been me in my career. Either that or I've been in a situation in high school where I kind of started a track team. So I was at, Westminster. Coach Weiss had started the team, but I think he had 11 people on the team. when I got there. So it was in its infancy. And we took that, and in 13, we won a state championships. And then at LCA, Coach Errol Rogers, the year before, had started junior high track. And he went to 2 high school meets and just kind of introduced the sport. And then I got there, and we kind of really started. And then 4 years later, we won a state championship. So, it's kind of been I got here at UL, and don't have to go into that story too much, but let's just say in 1989, UL wasn't poised to win 18 conference championships in the next 10 years. We were god awful. I think we got 9th and 7th my first year. I think there was only 7 teams on the men's side. We were really bad. And so I've had this belief system on how to do things. And there's a chapter in there. It's called the 5 P's of success. And it's passion, purpose, planning, and then practicing, and then performing. Because we're all really, honestly, no matter I'm sure y'all are too. We're kind of all judged on our performance, how we perform in our job, and you don't have to be a coach to understand that, or you don't have to be building a team. You could do that at the office, or if you're own a company, or you want to be a better employee, whatever it might be. I mean, you really do have to love what you want to do, and then you got to really. If you're going to do it a long term, you got to really know why you're doing it, right? Reason, purpose. And then if you want to be any good at it, I don't know another way around it. You got to work at it. You got to work at your craft. You got to get better at it. If you want to get promoted, or you want to maybe move into, a better job, higher paying job, or whatever it might be. My dad was a World War II vet, and he used to say, you know what you get for nothing? Nothing. So if you don't work at it, or you don't get, you don't. That's what I tell my kids all the time. A lot of times y'all want to take shortcuts. Well, you're taking a shortcut. There's somebody else over here that's not. That was one of the things I learned from Hollis. Hollis was the hardest worker. He was the number 1 guy in the world, and he was never satisfied. He was the hardest working guy I knew. And his motto was, Coach, somebody somewhere is trying to outwork me, and I'm not letting them. Somebody somewhere is trying to beat me, and I'm not letting them. And he would just come to every day with that big picture. He had that global vision of, if I'm going to do this, I need to work harder than my opponent's going to work. I have to outwork him. And I learned a lot from that, quite honestly, because he could have been complacent. He's the number 1 guy in the world. The world's a big place, But yeah, I enjoyed writing the book. I did. And there was a lot of cool athletes I've worked with, and a lot of good teams I've worked with. And we built a lot of, fond memories. And I get to reconnect with them, a lot, and that's always a fun thing. I just really recently reconnected with one of my athletes I haven't seen in 30-something years. I saw her 2 weeks ago. Her name was Vicky Mulvey. She was on our first team, and we kind of lost her, We didn't know where she had gone. We knew was a cancer survivor. It was cool. She's a cancer survivor, and she's in Singapore. That's why we lost her, but she was in town. It was awesome to be able to reconnect with her and see her again. But yeah, it's this meet, whatever, we started in 18. Obviously, there's a reason why I got hired in 18. But we started with a vision, we started with a plan. We started with, something that I had done before. And I said, if we just do these basic things, if we keep doing them on a daily basis and just grind and never stop and just keep working, it's going to reap the benefit down the road. And we're seeing some of the fruits of what I did in 19, 20, 21, 22, the relationships that we've built in Houston, the relationships we built with junior college coaches, the relationships we built with high school coaches in Louisiana. It's a much easier introduction now. I can go to Houston now and tell them where I'm from, and because of social media helps. And all these kids follow us, and it's a much easier introduction now. When I go to Houston, and I've built some relationships with club coaches and private coaches and high school coaches, and now all of a sudden, maybe the kids that are in their programs, all of a sudden maybe are easier for them to take a look at us. So I signed a 400 guy in Houston. At the state meet, he ran 44.91 anchor on the 4x4. Okay, well, because I built a relationship early. Yeah, 44.91 anchor. Yeah, and I built a relationship early. I was at regionals. I mean, with people that he's connected with, right? And so he trusted us back in the fall, and I couldn't get him now. Part of our recruiting strategy is we go in early on kids that we think are going to get better and then try to sign them. Because if they get better, we really don't have a chance to get them, right? And so about 80 or 90% of our recruiting is done before December, before we leave in December. We try to sign as many kids as we can. It's not 100%, but it is the way we try to do things, and it's really worked out for us because we go to high school first. A lot of schools today are going to the portal first. We go to the portal last.
Where does the writing background come from?
Well, I worked for this guy named George Foster, actually, and then I worked for a guy named Dan McDonald for a couple of years. And I was a student assistant SID here at UL and got a gig at the newspaper with before Foot did. I had Foot's job before him. I was worked my way up to assistant editor my last year at the Daily Advertiser, and then I had my own column for the Vermilion. Was that the name of the magazine? That weekly? What's the name of that weekly? Wasn't it? Was that weekly that was in Lafayette for a long time? Before that. What's the name of that thing? Anyway, I had my own column for 7 years, and then Don Allen took it over. So, the Times of Acadiana. Yeah, I had my own column there every week. So that's where the writing background came from. Yeah, they did tell me when I was writing the book. I probably, like a lot of the coaches, kind of let them do more of it, and I butchered them. Like I had full editorial rights. They shouldn't have done that.